Most people think Gumball is just a funny cartoon, but hidden throughout are some seriously disturbing characters that viewers completely missed. So today, we're uncovering every single one and finding out what makes them so terrifying. Starting with the most mysterious one of all, the van shopkeeper. The van shopkeeper first appears in The Possession, where he sells Nicole and Granny JoJo a refrigerator that turns out to be way more than just broken. This guy runs something called the Awesome Store, which is just a beat-up red van in a parking lot. But when you look inside, all you see is complete darkness with two glowing white eyes staring back at you. Already pretty creepy, but it gets so much worse when you find out what he's actually selling. So, in The Possession, Nicole and Granny JoJo go to him to repair their old fridge, and he's surprised it's still running. That's when they find out the fridge isn't just a fridge, but a dimensional storage for emotions. And of course, Richard gets trapped inside it, frozen in his own memories, refusing to leave because he's scared of losing them.
This fridge has so many good memories, but if it goes, all my memories will go too.
Nicole and Granny JoJo have to go inside and pull him out before he falls into an endless abyss. But this isn't the only cursed items he sells. In The Puppy, Richard buys what he thinks is a cute little turtle from the van shopkeeper, but it turns out to be an evil demon that feeds on misery and grows into a massive monster that nearly destroys the entire town. Then, in The Disaster, he sells Rob a universal remote that can literally control reality, pause time, and rewind the entire universe. In The Origins, he sells Richard a very special fish, which turns out to be Darwin, and warns him that it needs to be treated with care. And in The Console, he sells Richard a knockoff game console that traps the entire world inside a video game. The most disturbing part, he always warns them. He knows exactly what these items do, but he sells them anyway. He just appears in parking lots, sells cursed objects, and vanishes like he was never there. But the van shopkeeper isn't even the worst one, because this next character is Gumball turning himself into a literal monster. Throughout the series, Gumball transforms into some seriously disturbing creatures. Starting in The Box, when he gets a teleportation gun, he teleports with different animals trying to get superpowers, but a face appears on his nose. Then extra limbs start growing, and his body keeps deforming into grotesque mutations. By the end, he teleports with a cockroach and turns into this disgusting insect hybrid. Then, in The One, Darwin peels back Gumball's personality layers. First comes humor, a yellow jolly creature that's actually crying underneath. Then anxiety appears, followed by fear, who crushes optimism completely. But the worst part is Gumball's ego. This massive creature bursts out, growing so big it's literally the size of the entire house. It's Gumball's sense of self as a literal monster, and Darwin barely escapes alive. But the most disturbing transformation happens in The Apprentice, when Gumball starts plucking strands from his DNA helix in an elevator with Patrick. With each strand he pulls, he mutates into something worse. First, he's a blob creature with way too many eyes. Then these fleshy monsters with mouths in the wrong places and extra limbs grow out of his body. He cycles through mutation after mutation, turning into a dinosaur at one point. And when the elevator doors finally open, we see the final form, an absolute nightmare with unlimited faces, eyes, and limbs all stacked on top of each other. Multiple mouths screaming, dozens of eyes looking in different directions, arms and legs jutting out from everywhere. It's absolutely terrifying and would make anyone run away screaming. But Gumball's transformations aren't even the scariest part of the show, because whatever happened to the darkness? In the episode The Downer, Gumball wakes up with the worst mood ever and wishes that everyone would just disappear. But then his wish actually comes true. He looks up and his entire family is gone. Not just his family though. Literally everyone in Elmore has vanished. At first, Gumball is thriving. He runs through the streets screaming at the top of his lungs, eating whatever he wants and doing whatever he feels like with zero consequences. But after about 5 minutes, reality sets in and things start to feel really wrong. The town is completely empty. The buildings are all abandoned and everything is way too quiet.
Then it must be the end of the world and everyone went to a better place apart from me. Then it could only be because I wished everyone to go away.
Gumball starts to realize that maybe wishing away all of existence wasn't the best idea, but it's too late now. That's when things get creepy. His distorted face keeps appearing throughout the episode, and then the darkness starts closing in. This shadowy entity begins consuming everything around him, slowly swallowing up the entire town piece by piece.
What is that? Darkness. It's calling me.
Gumball tries to run away, but the darkness just keeps chasing him, getting closer and closer until he's backed into a corner of his own house, with nothing but this black void surrounding him. And then it consumes everything, leaving Gumball completely alone in the abyss with absolute nothingness around him. No light, no sound, no people, just empty space stretching on forever. What makes the darkness so disturbing is that it represents complete loneliness. It's not just a monster chasing it, it's the physical form of what happens when you push everyone away.
What's going on? Oh, what do I do? What do I do?
The darkness doesn't attack him or hurt him. It just isolates him until there's nothing left. It's one of those episodes that actually feels like a nightmare you can't wake up from, and is something I'm glad doesn't exist, right? But while the darkness is terrifying, whatever happened to Gargaroth? In the episode The Scam, it's Halloween, and Miss Simeon is hosting a show and tell, where Gumball tells a scary story about a demon named Gargaroth. The story goes that Gargaroth was a hideous monster who demanded a princess's hand in marriage, but she was so disgusting that she left him at the altar, heartbroken. Gargaroth started eating everyone until he was banished to the underworld, and saying his name would allow him to return. Gumball keeps saying Gargaroth over and over, which terrifies his classmates. Then paranormal activities start happening. Sarah's head levitates, chairs move on their own, and everyone runs out screaming. But it's all fake. Carrie is using her ghost powers to make it look like Gargaroth is hunting the school, and this is part of a plan to scan everyone out of their Halloween candy by pretending to be ghost exterminators. The scam works perfectly, and they collect tons of candy from the entire town. But then the ground starts cracking, the sky turns red, and they realize something is very wrong. When they investigate, the real Gargaroth rises from the underworld. This massive demon emerges from the floor, and he's not just some story anymore. He's real, and he's hungry. They try everything to stop him, but nothing works.
Your story's true. All it takes is a hero. This hero. Right, maybe not.
Carrie realizes the only way to defeat him is to feed him all their candy until he explodes, so they dumped everything into his mouth. But he needs one more piece, and Gumball reluctantly gives up his last lollipop. Gargaroth explodes, and the school returns to normal, but not before he nearly takes Carrie as his bride to the underworld forever. A fake Halloween story turning into an actual demon is genuinely terrifying. But if you thought that was disturbing, The Game Child is even worse, because it literally takes over reality. In the episode The Console, Richard gives Gumball a knockoff video game console called the Game Child for his birthday, which of course he bought from the Awesome Store. So Gumball turns it on, and the world starts pixelating into blackness. When screen comes back up, Gumball realizes he's just trapped the entire town inside a JRPG video game. So now everyone has dialogue boxes above their head, and everything works on turn-based combat. When they encounter a shrub blocking their path, Gumball kicks it, and they're forced into battle with a giant flower monster, which turns out to be Leslie. But after they win, they continue exploring where Gumball can loot Mr. Robinson's house, steal his money, and do whatever he wants, because that's how RPGs work.
I'm sure Mr. Robinson doesn't mind.
Welcome to my home. Please take whatever you need for your quest.
I'm gonna go sleep in his bed now.
But things get worse when they have to complete tedious side quests like finding pigeons all over the town, which Gumball is forced to do because of that gamer need to finish everything. So after grinding and leveling up by defeating random people in the park, they finally arrive at the Awesome Store to face the final boss. But the van shopkeeper tells him he's not the enemy. The Game Child itself is the real villain. So the console comes to life and challenges them to a battle. And this thing is insanely powerful. It knocks all three of them down to 1 HP with a single attack.
Oh, yeah, right.
Which means they have to summon all their friends just to barely defeat it. And even then, they only achieve 89% completion.
Congratulations, you completed the game at 89%. Yay! What do you mean 89%? Do you want to start a new game?
Trapping the entire world inside a video game where everyone loses their free will is genuinely disturbing. But if you thought that was bad, hold on to your blankets, because things are about to get even more disturbing in the episode The Mirror. The episode starts with Gumball getting a bunch of emails from someone called the Snatcher, warning him that if he doesn't forward it to 10 people, he'll be cursed. The email says first he'll lose his money, then his friends, then his family, and at night the Snatcher will show his face in the mirror and rip away his spirit with long cold claws. But Gumball doesn't believe in any of that stuff, so he just deletes it. And then the curse starts happening. Gumball loses all of his money without knowing how. Then his friends at school turn against him because they think he called Penny fat. And when he gets home, his entire family is gone. That's when things get really creepy. The Snatcher starts emerging through mirrors and mirror-like surfaces all over the house, dragging Anais, Richard, and Nicole into the mirror world with him. So Carrie shows up with the forbidden book to help, and that's when she reveals the Snatcher is actually her father, Vladis. He was a mortal man who fell in love with a ghost and used forbidden magic to touch her physically, but the price was getting cursed to live in limbo, trapped behind mirrors forever. So they come up with a plan to summon him in a mirror, expose him to the first light of dawn, and then smash the mirror with the forbidden book to break the curse. The plan works, and Vladis is finally freed from the curse. He climbs out of the mirror and reunites with Carrie, but when they try to hug, he goes straight through her ghost body and falls out the window, killing him.
Is he okay? No.
But then he returns as a ghost himself, and they finally embrace after all these years. A chain email that actually becomes real and traps people behind mirrors is absolutely disturbing. And that's the Snatcher. But speaking of things that shouldn't exist, there's also Kenneth from The Microwave. The Microwave starts with Gumball showing Darwin his latest creation, a jar filled with the most disgusting things you can imagine, and it only gets worse from there. The jar is packed with bird feces, regurgitated spoiled milk, and other nasty stuff. But then the jar ends up in the microwave and starts getting heated up. So an eye forms from the muck, and when the timer goes off, they find a little monster face staring back at them.
Did you hear that? He called you Mom. Then I guess that makes you its dad.
Gumball names it Kenneth and decides to keep it as his baby. But Kenneth jumps out and starts sucking on Darwin's eye like a parasite.
Dude, it's what babies do. It's just suckling. It's not suckling, it's feeding! Okay, relax. He's just playing. He'll come off on his own.
But Kenneth isn't a normal baby. He attacks Anais when she insults him, then attacks the delivery man, and then starts eating the trash cans outside. The family realizes Kenneth is growing bigger with everything he eats. Richard tries to give them parental advice, but Kenneth literally swallows his entire arm while he's talking. And then Kenneth grows so massive that he's way bigger than all of them combined. So Nicole comes home and goes to the backyard to find Richard, but Kenneth attacks and swallows her whole. Then he traps Gumball, Darwin, Anais, and Richard inside his body too. Darwin tries to save everyone by jumping inside Kenneth's mouth with a garden hose, and Gumball accidentally turns on the water. Kenneth fills up until he explodes, freeing the entire family. But then we see a future scene where Kenneth grew even bigger than before and is destroying the entire town. A creature born from literal trash in a microwave that feeds on everything and gets stronger is genuinely horrifying. But the final disturbing character is actually a collection of creatures from The Picnic that live in the Forest of Doom. The picnic starts with the class taking a bus to a picnic area, and Miss Simeon specifically warns them 3 times to avoid the Forest of Doom. But of course, Gumball doesn't hear her. So he's sitting in the back with Darwin, and he mistakenly believes they're supposed to go through the Forest of Doom. Miss Simeon and the class leave before he can confirm, which means Gumball and Darwin have to travel through the forest by themselves. And this forest is genuinely terrifying. So they get 3 warnings that they're not supposed to go somewhere dangerous. First, an evil laughing tree. Then squirrels who smile and say they'll never get out alive. And finally, the wind tells them twice they're going the wrong way, but they keep going anyway and end up completely lost. Then they encounter the creatures. There's a hideous green quadrupedal chicken that attacks them, then a one-eyed colorful caterpillar, and that's when the most disturbing part happens. They watch the entire food chain unfold in 20 seconds. The caterpillar gets eaten by a fish bird, which then gets eaten by a tentacled koala, which then gets eaten by a griffin, which then gets eaten by a huge moose-like predator. All this happens right in front of them in complete horror. So after watching predators eat predators right in front of them, Gumball and Darwin realize they're next on the menu. The moose creature starts chasing them through the forest, and they run for their lives, barely making it out alive. But make sure to subscribe, or you might end up trapped in the Forest of Doom. And check out this next video, where we cover even more Gumball content.